What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Maxon stream. My name is Ian, and we are working on ZBrush. That's what we're doing, so hopefully you guys are having a good day. We've been working on this project now for a little bit. I've taken my time with it, but also life gets busy, so I haven't finished it. So we're kind of where we left off, but there are some things that I wanted to do and go over. So we're going to be working with ZBrush today. Can I do a course? So basically every Wednesday from at this time, so 10 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time, or daylight time rather, I do a stream here, and so I cover pretty much anything ZBrush related. So if you have any ZBrush questions, yes, I can actually go ahead and cover. We also do from time to time do a series called How It's Made. So if you're looking for something more specific about like making an actual thing from start to finish within one stream, then you can also look at those. In fact, I can drop one for you too, especially if you're new to ZBrush. I've done a few streams where I covered some follow-alongs, so that way people can start right away with ZBrush. So ZBrush, how it's made. I'll just go ahead and share a playlist that we've created, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. Myself and Paul Gabriel have also done quite a bit there. So let me just share that playlist with everyone. Oop, coming here real fast. Back. I'm gonna go ahead and just full playlist, and let's go ahead and share that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that link, and we'll drop it in the chat. Can you keep doing the translation? I only speak English, but from time to time I try to look up using Google Translate. I know that's not the best, but I try. So if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer it based on the translation. So, but yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with this. There's the link right there. So if you wanted to get started with ZBrush right away, that is a way you can go about doing it. The other thing too is we also have a getting started series on our Z Classroom, and that right there will also help get you started within ZBrush rather quickly. So if you're really interested, then definitely pop into there. All right, let's get into it today. So I've been working on this concept called the Screaming Hand. I've only been doing the concept here on the stream. This is a Screaming Hand from Santa Cruz Screaming Hand, which is a California logo. So basically right now we have most of the wraps. So I'm going to fine tune the rest of the wraps, make this make just a little bit more sense. And then we're going to go ahead and go from there. There's some connection points that don't make a whole lot of sense right now, so I want them to make sense, even though we're not doing a authentic wrap. We're just making sure that it's good enough. So what's up, Zach? Let's hit 5 million billion likes. I love it. Let's do it. You got me pumped. Let's go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want some strap connection points right here coming down and kind of crossing over, so it looks like that they wrapped around this finger itself. So the way I'm going to go about doing that is actually I'm going to take this previous wrap right here. I'm going to touch this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and mask that off and invert, and it's a little hard to see because I'm using dynamic thickness. I'm going to grab this one, mask that off, and invert that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the move brush, and I'm going to just pull this down a little bit. Now, I don't have to do the mask off trick. I can also go to my brush. I could go to auto masking and turn on topological, and that will also just pull, even with a massive brush, it'll only pull the thing that I touch. So topological is really good for that, especially if masking off. That's just a little tedious, so we don't need to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and take this and move this down. And now we're just making it look like these connection points actually belong where they do. Because the intent is to eventually 3D print this, we're going to go ahead and make sure everything is intersecting so that we stay watertight. So let's go ahead and just kind of tuck these in. And that's looking pretty good. And now we're going to go ahead and draw some wraps up. What's up, Hudson? Welcome, welcome from Jamaica. Love it, love it. Very cool. All right. So these are looking pretty good. We still have a good ways to go, but now we can start moving into secondary forms and getting a lot more out of our sculpt. And we made this wormy dealy over here, so we're gonna make sure too that that worm gets added in where we want it. Now, just a really quick note here is that when you're using topological, if you have things masked off and you grab the wrong section, it may seem like it's not working, but it's just because things are masked off and it's just not grabbing the one piece that you're trying to. So you don't have to turn topological off. It's just something that, you know, it's just not engaging with the other stuff because it's not grabbing it right. All right. Yeah, ZBrush Summit is happening, Nightbot. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make some new straps. And so to do that, I'm gonna select this hand mesh right here. And now I'm going to add in some straps so they make sense, but I'm gonna be using the topological brush. So that's B for brush, T for topological, and we have O for topological brush. And what I'm gonna be doing with this, guys, the bigger the brush size, the bigger these little black and orange indicators are, and the smaller the brush size, the smaller they are. I like to use a smaller brush size because when you're doing an intersection like this and you come across to make these, notice here how these intersections just kind of jumped and it's not super clean. So what I like to do is use a smaller brush size so then that connection point is less likely and I get a much cleaner result for my quad. So I tend to go with a much smaller brush. And then now here, I'm going to go ahead and draw this. How do I want this to look? I want this to go up between the fingers. Yeah. What's my reference? Let me look at my reference real quick just to make sure. Yeah, okay. I'm going to kind of want them to almost cross over each other. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this like such. And we'll get like kind of a big one here, come across, start making some quads, just like that. And that will ensure that it intersects pretty well. Now, if I hold Alt and swipe, it will actually clean up my mesh a little bit and give me some nice quads here. And then if I press S for draw size, and then press 1 for the smallest draw size and touch it one time, it will give me a nice single-sided geometry that then I can isolate and separate with everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and actually come here to Subtool Split Hidden, clean this off, and now we have our mesh here. I'll just go ahead and Alt tap to select it. Alt tap it, please. I'm not touching a quad. Okay, let's just press down the keyboard. There we go. And now let's go ahead and refine this a little bit. So I'm going to use the move brush to kind of come through here and refine. Now this is just one side, so we're actually going to be using Z-modeler to get the rest of the shapes as well. There we go. Alt tap there. Kind of bring this up a little bit. I don't mind that they're kind of intersecting this way, just because we're going to be going ahead and, again, making sure that it all merges together perfectly. All right. So if you guys have any questions about ZBrush, please feel free to ask about as I'm sculpting away. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Perfect. So we're going to use the Z Modeler brush, which is ZBrush's hard surface tool. So we're going to hit B for brush, Z for Z Modeler, and M for the final Z Modeler. And now I'm going to hover over this edge, and I'm going to do an extrude. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this edge out, because now we're going to have this kind of loop around the finger aspect. We'll go ahead and mask this section off, and then we'll lift it up just a bit. Like that. And I'm actually going to go ahead and lift up the rest of the way, and then we're going to extrude another one just like such. Now if I hit D for dynamic, that's going to go ahead and smooth it out. But if I come over to my tool palette on the right hand side, go to geometry, dynamic, and apply some thickness, 0.025 is what I've been relying on, with an offset of -100 actually. So maybe I go a little bit thicker, 0.035. It's going to look something like that. And let's grab our move brush and position this right where we want it. Now notice too, I have some creasing here. So we're just going to get rid of that by going to Geometry, Crease, and we're going to go with Uncrease All. Now that's going to shrink it up a little bit because we're doing a dynamic projection, which is not true subdivision, but it's just projecting what 3 levels of subdivision would look like. So we can actually correct that here in a minute by actually taking our Z modeler brush and giving us some edge topology. We could just do sharpen as well, but I'm going to go with edge line insert, and I'm just going to insert a couple supporting edges on the outskirts like this, and this will prevent the rounding, and that'll prevent the shrinking a bit too. Now we can go back to that move brush, which is B, M, and then V, and then we can come through, bring this up. So this will at least appear like it's wrapping around his finger the way it should. And we're just gonna copy and paste this one. So we're gonna have this come through and wrap up like this. And then now I'm just gonna go ahead and duplicate this by bringing up the gizmo with W, holding Control and dragging. Let's see what we got here. Let's pull this down, pull this back up. Yeah, there we go. We're just going to go ahead and adjust this so that it looks the way we want it to look. All right. Now we got some straps coming through here. It's looking a little bit better, like it makes a little bit more sense. And we don't have to be perfect in this. We're just trying to make sure that we put it in its spot. We can always refine after the fact. Smooth this down just a little bit, and then press that in like that. Beautiful. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I have some other straps here as well. Let's actually turn around and do, what do we want to do? We want to do poly groups, auto groups, so that way our groups are now different. We can isolate one at any given time. But I do want to select these, and I do want to take this mesh here. Now let's take this purple one. We're going to duplicate this one by bringing this up by pressing and holding Control again and setting this in just so that it looks like it belongs a little bit better. Press this in. Now I have topological turned on, but I have a quick menu for that. I'm going to turn that off just because it's fighting me a little bit. Again, just because I have everything masked off. So, and I'm not grabbing the exact point that I need. Now what we could do, actually, we could add a little bit of fun here. Let's actually come here, let's tap this. Let's actually rotate this around right here. I know we have that one strap right there, but I see an opportunity to make this seem like it makes a weird turn, but in a good way. So I'm going to grab that. Now again, I have to, let's see here. Let's go to polygroups and auto groups. I have a quick menu that basically just indicates all the different spots in which these things reside. So if you see that quick menu pop up, I'm still calling out the location that it's actually at. So grab here, boop. It's down. So that strap feels a little bit more natural. Let's actually twist it a little bit. So I'm going to mask that section off, put my point right here, and actually twist that just a little bit. There we go. How's everybody else doing? Hopefully you guys are having a great week so far. All right. I think that's looking a lot better for what we are going for, which is nice. Now I'm definitely going to want all these straps to be the exact same size. So I'm going to go into my subtool, and I have a folder here, and I have all of these wraps, and they're all individually connected at the moment. So they're all grouped out. But for my sake, I like to merge things together sometimes if it's all going to be the same thickness, especially when controlling the dynamic thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and start merging things down. But before I do, I'm going to go to Geometry, go to Dynamic Subdivision, and then what I'm going to do is press down on the keyboard to make sure that everything is of the same geometry level. So this is dynamic, dynamic, and dynamic. So that's perfect. So that way it's not too different. So now when I come here, I'm going to go ahead and merge down together. Say OK. I'm going to do this a few times. Merge down. There we go. Now everything is the same. So when I turn it off and when I turn it on. Now what we can do is if we want to remesh at any point in time, this would be the time to do that. So I can go ahead and hit apply just so that I have my subdivision level. In fact, actually, let's do this without thickness first. There's a reason for that. I don't want to deal with double-sided topology and have to clean that up. So I'm going to apply this and delete lower. And then I'm going to auto-group it. And now what I'm going to do is Z-remesh this with keep groups. So geometry, Z-remesher, keep groups with smooth groups down to 0. I don't think we need to do keep crease edges, but I just want to make sure everything's the same. So let's try with a target poly of 10,000. Let's see what we got. Perfect, perfect. Awesome. All right, that's looking pretty good. Mesh is looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and do that by, oh, that's 11. I'm going to want to do wrinkles, so I actually don't want to do half. That should be fine. So then when I hit D for dynamic again, that's going to give me some good looks. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply that thickness one more time. Let's do 1.15. It's just a guess. It's not exact. There we go. It's not too bad. That's not too bad. Okay, let's make some of these fingers make sense. Then cool. Then mask this section off. I'm actually going to go ahead and kind of extend this up a little bit. This is a bigger strap. Let's turn topological back on. So again, that's brush, auto masking, and topological. And then we're going to just start bringing down some of this mesh here so that it tucks in a little bit better. Especially the stuff that we want to make it look like it's connected the way it's supposed to be. So bring this in. I do a lot of manual adjusting, but I feel like it gives me the results I want. Okay, we need to officially get the rest of this character done. And he has a lot of slime. Or it's like his face is melting. His mouth face. So we're going to go ahead and adjust all that as well. So here, I've left some room, but if we look on the reference, which is down on the bottom right, you see here we have some of this like gooey slime bits in. So we're going to start adding some of that. And I have an approach that I've been wanting to try, so let's go ahead and give that a shot. Let's go ahead and save it first, though, because that's important. So we're going to go ahead and call this ZTL 5. And then we're calling this, we'll call this slime, I guess it is. We'll call it a slime, or no, we'll call this flesh added. Perfect. All right. So here's actually how I want to do this. This part right here looks pretty gnarly. So, and then we have some little bits and slimes for the mouth, like some drool or saliva we're going to be adding. So what I'm thinking about doing is actually creating just a little bit of brush to make these parts. But for this part here, I'm actually going to add a plane to this. And we'll do a little bit of a custom creation. So come down here. We'll add a new folder and call this slime and flesh. Slime and flesh. Yay. Sounds awesome, right? Okay. Now we're going to go ahead in here and I'm going to insert a plane 3D. Just like such. Let's go ahead and solo this part out. Now with this particular look right here, what I'm going to actually be using is our mesh project, which is really cool because you can actually project any shape that you would want. Mesh project. Project any shape that you want, and it adds some geometry. What's also really cool about it is you can come through here and you can subtract some stuff. So you can make some holes as well. This is a really fun way to go ahead and get some neat shapes, as long as you don't rotate. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and create my basic shape. Kind of stretch this up like this, and that creates this shape here. Now without moving the canvas, I'm going to go ahead and kind of draw our first hole and hold the Alt button, and that's going to subtract that shape. And I'm going to do that a few times. Yes. I'm going to come in here, subtract this shape here. Yep, like that. Think that'll work out fairly well. So that's how you're going to get some really cool stuff. Then we can actually adjust this according. So let's make sure our topological is turned off for this. And the other thing too, I'm actually going to go to brush, curve, and AccuCurve, and this is going to allow stuff to be brought to a point. So I can add some really fun shapes to this. I'm going to go ahead and put that down right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide this, and I'm just going to delete hidden. Now we have some nice fun shapes here. And then let's see. Perhaps if I do a smooth, so I'm going to turn off RGB with a smooth of like 24. Yeah. Go ahead and grab this same color and fill that object. And the straps are actually this really interesting green, so let's get that color in there. Almost like a turquoise. Gotta fill that color. It's a little faint. Let's go here, fill that color. Yeah, that's pretty close. All right. Let's grab this flesh. Let's move this around, and let's start adding this in. All right, perfect. Let's move that down. Now what's cool is it looks like the straps, the wraps go over this bit. So we can add this in and then kind of merge it together. Now I still have this Dynamesh, this hand Dynamesh, and so I may actually just end up welding this together. We'll see how it goes. down. Over here. Now we're going to start fiddling with this. I'm actually going to use the Move Infinite brush because the Move brush, if I go BMV, the Move brush only moves a certain portion of it and everything else collapses. Whereas the Move Infinite brush, which is B, M, and N, moves everything infinitely in front of it through the entire viewport. So if I drag this, it's equally moving that side. So Move Infinite brush does this. The Move brush does something weird where it's just grabbing one side and bringing everything else it can with it. So this is where the Move Infinite brush is really going to come in handy, because now I can kind of fine tune this and move this around and make it work. Stretch it out. And I can also come in here with a bigger brush, kind of squeeze it in a little bit. Tuck this part in like such, and here just push that in. I want this to look like it's kind of stretching a little bit. Shove it in until it makes sense. This part's going to be cool right here. I'm actually going to take the normal move brush, move to the hands now. I have AccuCurve turned on, so let's turn that back off. Switch back and forth until we get the right shapes. In there. Now, if we're stretching the mesh or the topology too much, we can actually go ahead and Z-remesh this, or we can go ahead and Dynamesh it. I'm going to Z-remesh it just because we have some pretty clean mesh already. So I'm just going to go to Geometry, Z-remesher. What I'm going to do is actually keep groups and keep creases. Move the groups down and Z-remesh that. And I'm actually going to do it at the same. I don't want it to change too much. I'm not trying to get better topology. I was actually doing, just turn off groups. See if we get better results. Let's go up a little bit. Let's try to go 10,000. This might be just a little too low. We're at 6 right now. Yeah, that's better. There we go. That's better. I just turned off. I turned off keep groups. Fill that back to that proper color. Let's go ahead and turn on local symmetry. So, okay, let's actually get rid of this mesh down here. So let's come here with knife curve. Let's clip off that side and clip off that side. And let's Z-remesh it at the same. Perfect. There we go. Now I can center that to right where I want. I'm actually going to do a light, relaxed, smooth, which will open up these holes a little bit. That's pressing and holding shift and then letting go. And then I can finesse some of this stuff here. details at the moment. Just trying to get it looking fairly decent. Now we're going to do something similar, but on the opposite side. So that way we have consistency between everything. Merge that together. That would be cool. Once we merge that together, we can clean that up a little bit and make a little bit more sense. Right now, it's just kind of like, just kind of placed in there. Let's move that in here. And then same thing. Although I shouldn't have gotten rid of my plain 3D because I'm just going to do it all over again. But rinse and repeat. So now this time, I think what I'm going to do for this, I'll make something a little different. Like such. Let's do this hole here, pressing and holding Alt. Come through here. That should be pretty good. Nah, I don't like it. Actually, let's start that over. Just like we did before. This time we'll actually do the big hole at the top. We'll do some little holes at the bottom. There we go. Got that. Let's just repeat this process. Move this over here, scale it down, and repeat. And again, welcome in everybody. If you're new, what's going on? My name is Ian, and I am a ZBrush trainer over at Maxon. And today we are messing with a screaming hand, the Santa Cruz screaming hand, a little mummified one. Started this project a little while ago, so welcome in. And again, if you have any ZBrush questions, feel free to ask away, as I like to handle questions as best as I can. Let's do this. So a little bit of modifying. Go, and I'm going to do a relax smooth. Push that down. That way they're not the same, but they're a little different. And actually that one like kind of worked in there really easily. So it looks a lot better. That's funny. Cool. All right, now actually let's move these up into the main hand itself. So I'm going to go ahead and take these, move these up just below the hand because I want to weld these together. There, let's move this up. So now I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to merge down. Merge down one more time. Beautiful. Now let's take that lovely paintbrush. Actually, before we do anything else, let's go to Polygroups, Auto Groups, because we haven't welded them completely together. So we can come up here to Color and Fill Color. Cool. Real quick, I want to check something out. Just to make sure.
Holding at 255, which is perfect.
Make sure that all the chat is coming through as well. Okay. Interesting. Let me see something real fast. Looks like Twitch is off for some reason. That's not fun. I don't like that. Hopefully Twitch is coming through okay. It's saying that it's offline though, which would be a bummer. Oh, Twitch API is not responding. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. All right. Let's go ahead here and let's just grab this color up the top here. So this color, I want to keep this color for the most part. So I'm going to add a spot for history. And now this part is Dynamesh by default. That's what I was working with. But sometimes when you merge things, it'll turn off. So you want to make sure that it's still turned on. And you want to go ahead and Dynamesh, which will weld that together completely. And I want to make sure the resolution is good. So I'm going to turn blur off, up the resolution, and re-Dynamesh. Now I'm going to take the clay buildup brush with alpha 18. And now I'm going to go ahead and start getting this cleaned up a bit. I can start adding these little points here, make it look like it's attached and looking pretty gross, and then we'll paint it to match. Just little fleshy bits. Now I'm going to want to add some holes into this mesh. This is where we're going to put our worms. So a way to add a really fun hole really quickly is actually using the layer brush. So if you hit B for brush, L, and then A for layer, that's going to give you this brush. And how this brush works is that it actually cuts in or adds based on basically just on a layer. It acts like an individual layer. So as I come in, it's only going to go so far, and then I can repeat that process a bunch. So we're going to find a nice little hole. I'm actually going to increase the intensity. I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt and cut that down. Then I'm going to press 1 a few times to give me the depth of the holes I want. And then now I'm going to go ahead and kind of refine around it. Now let's turn on Render Preview AO with Occlusion so you can actually see the effect that's going for. This is a really great way to get some nice, fun flesh tones or like some scabs or even scars. It's a great way to like kind of cut in. So let's go ahead and let's actually up that resolution a little bit more. And let's save it. I don't think I saved not too long ago. These holes are going to be fun because this is what we're going to be adding our fun little worms. And here I'm going to go ahead and add some texture. Down a little bit so you can add some nice little interesting texture. Looks kind of gross. The other way you can work with this is actually we have a thing called thick skin. So if you come on over here to thick skin and turn that on, you can actually create a thickness in which you can work with, and that essentially does the same thing but overall. So you can work with any brush on that, and then it'll eventually, let's say if I add it up like this, then they'll eventually cap out. So that's kind of fun. So if you want that effect, thick skin is perfect for that, and it's also Control-Z-able. But the layer brush, I really like the layer brush just because it's just a nice little fun brush that does a lot really quickly. Go add a couple holes there for this guy. Press 1 a few times to kind of get a deeper hole. This is the beauty of working with Dynamesh. Nice, okay, we'll stick that there. I'll actually put one down here as well. We're gonna go with different shapes and sizes. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3. I like odd numbers, but 3 is too small. So let's do ourselves a favor, actually. Let's get a little clever here. I'm going to put one here. and it's going to kind of come out and add support to this strap. So when we print that, if we decide to print it as all one piece, we can have this come out and kind of hold it a little bit. That could be fun. There, now we need one more. Let's look at the concept just to see where they placed it. They placed it based on imagery 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 6, 7. They have 7. They have some down at the base too, so we can add a few down there coming out from the strap. I don't want any in his mouth. I think that's almost like, that's too gross. I don't know, that sounds weird. Let's have one coming out of his lip a little bit. There we go. There'll be a small one. I'm just gonna take the clay buildup and put that in just a little bit more. And go back to... If you're watching this and you're trying to watch it on Twitch, I do apologize. It seems Twitch is down. It's having a hard time connecting for some reason, so not sure if it's what's happening there, but it'll be on VOD. It's just a bummer. Okay. Let's do a smooth here. Now I'm also going to go ahead and paint. I'm going to grab this color. Start painting some of this here. Just color and kind of blend it back a little bit. So natural shadows happening. Now we had a little bit right here. This is kind of sunken in a bit. So this is actually an easy fix. If you ever see that you are working on one side and you create a kind of a hole on the other side, and you're working with Dynamesh, the easiest way to do this is to actually go ahead and go to Brush Samples. Sorry, not Samples, Auto Masking, and turn Backface on. And then with the clay buildup brush, kind of come in here and just fill that void. And what they'll do is Backface turned on, we'll go ahead and not add any more on the other side. It just meant that that area was too thin. So then when I go ahead and rebuild with it welded in, it's now gonna reconnect that and make it a better connection. Pretty fun. Okay, let's take this worm and let's start making it happen. So let's come on over here. Let's make sure symmetry is not turned on. Oop, close that down. Let's open up our subtool. Now let's start adding this worm everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and take this first worm. I'm just going to be scaling them and placing them before I try to do any type of manipulation. Or actually, we're going to do something a little bit different. I got it. Here's what we're going to do. We actually are going to manipulate them, but I'm going to show you a trick that I've used a lot, and I really, really like this trick. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this down. I'm going to place this here. Now I want to manipulate this worm. And then I'm going to want to manipulate all other worms to be slightly different. So what I'm going to do is with the gizmo, and the way that the gizmo is facing with the blue arrow facing the front, I'm going to go ahead and hit this cogwheel, and I'm going to go ahead to bend curve. Oh, I have subdivisions turned on. Turn those subdivisions off. Actually, let's just drop it to a lower subdivision. It'll be much easier. Let's try it one more time. Come here, bend curve. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, with this, might be a little hard to see, so let's actually put this up. But right here, this little orange cone, this is actually going to change my resolution. So right now I have 2 points of contact. I'm going to want a couple. So I'm going to pull this until I get at least a few more dots, and now I can go ahead and manipulate this little worm to kind of come up like this, maybe move this one. All right. Now here's the trick, right? The trick with this is with the way this is at, if I hit Q, that turns that off. I hit Q or hit W, that turns that back on. Now, if I want to duplicate the subtool, Control Shift D will duplicate the subtool. And if I hit W again, right, it'll actually keep that bend curve selected. So if I hit W a second time, it'll kick me back to the gizmo. And as long as I don't manipulate the mesh itself and I just move it into a different position, say something like here, scale it up a little bit, and make that fit right where I want. Now if I hit W again, I can actually now adjust this curve. Rotate this around. So it keeps my curve, which is awesome. So now again, Control Shift D. This way. Let's move this forward here. This is a much bigger one, so I'm going to scale this up. This here. Now hitting W a second time, I now can actually adjust this curve. So push this here. And I can always add more if I want. So if I want a little bit more finessing, I can do that. Go. Now at any point, I can select another one. So I don't have to keep duplicating the same one. I'll just select another one, hit W. Actually take this side. Now, why are we reinventing the wheel? Let's turn this around. Let's scale this up. Let's have this touch. Again, I'm actually going to drop that resolution down. Use it one more time. Sitting on top of his hands. So not everything is floating. Go. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Two, three, four. You're gonna have a small one down here and then a couple more. This one, actually, let's take this guy. There we go. Yeah, it's starting to come together, which is nice. Control 50. Actually, we'll push this one in. Oh, that's cool. Actually, I really like that. Let's actually have that coming through his mouth like that. Executive decision. Perfect. Let's grab this here. This bit. Layer brush. Let's carve that in. Yeah, there we go. Now it looks like it's going through his gum and his lip. I think that's pretty cool. I like that. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here, let's actually push that one in a little bit more. I want that to look kind of cool. Okay. Now let's take this guy. Let's duplicate it. Control Shift D. Gonna grab it. Turn him around. put them right on top. Again, hitting W, we can now adjust the curve a little bit. Great way to pose things. Rotate this, put this here. But we're actually going to keep this worm fully on him. There we go. Perfect, perfect. Ah, man, I'm bummed that Twitch is just not connecting. Sorry about that. Let me check too. I want to make sure. Sorry if any other questions are not coming through as well. Let me just check YouTube real fast and make sure that the connection, that everything's going there as well. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, cool. All right, just want to make sure everything's right. Things are funky today for some reason. Let me see something. I'm going to try something real quick just to make sure that maybe I can do a reset on... Maybe I can do a reset on Twitch manually. Let me see. Okay, let me try it one more time. If this doesn't work, then we'll leave it as such. Gotta try everything. Boop, boop, boop. But how's everybody else doing? Hopefully everybody's doing pretty well. All right, we tried it. We restarted it. Hopefully it works. If not, we'll just keep going. All right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need a 7th one. We cannot have an even number. I don't like even numbers. I'm just weird like that. So Control-Shift-D. Yes. You know it has to happen. You know it has to happen. You know it does. Let's get in there. Let's bury it. Oh, perfect. And you can see it from there. Beautiful. All right, cool. That's what I was hoping. I hit W again. Bring this down. Let's curl this up a little bit with a little bit of a tail like this. Let's add a little bit more resolution. Just a little, that's way too much. There we go. Just so they have a nice little curl on that tail. Two, three, four, five. Okay. That's cool that you could see that like that. Okay. All right. That's better. That is better. I like that. All right. With these straps here, let's go ahead and move these down. And then let's create our brush. Let's create our brush for, let's see what we got right there. For our slime bit. So I'm going to go ahead and merge this down like such. Go. Grab this and color fill that. Oh, help if I have RGB turned on. Color fill. Okay, okay. You know what? I didn't like how that merged. Okay, so when something like this happens, where something merges together and you just don't like how it is, don't freak out. Don't save it. Don't be like, oh my god, that's it. Life is over with. Just come back up to load and load the previous save version that you had it so that it looks good. Right? And then come back here and then copy that, and then bring that back into this spot. Go ahead and hit paste. And let's go ahead and delete this one here. So now we have this version back. And now come here. There we go. Let's go to color, fill. Yeah, that's better. We'll copy that, and then we'll bring that back. So if you do something where it's just like it didn't work out to your favor, that's okay. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna actually move the hands so much. I think the hands are fine, so they can go with a little bit of a movement. There we go. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Just like such. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Push that in. All right. There we go. There we go. Okay, we're getting somewhere. I like this. Let's go ahead and make the slime bit. So let's go ahead and save. Now we're going to save it. And we're going to come back here. Just delete all. We don't need that. We see we got what we wanted. Now let's go ahead and make the slime bits. So for the slime bits, what I'm going to do, I've made slime a few different ways. But the way I'm going to do is actually make a brush or adjust a brush. So we have all of our worms here. So I'm going to insert in that slime and worm brush. I'm going to go ahead and insert a sphere. I'm going to go ahead and hit solo. And this is just for testing purposes. I don't actually need the sphere itself. But I will go ahead and grab a curve brush. So I'm going to go B for brush, curve. And then we can either do the curve alpha or we can do the curve multi-tube, which is probably the route I want to go actually. And if we draw this out, we get this. Right, so we're going to do a little bit of modifications to make this brush perform the way we want. The first thing is we're going to go ahead and go up to stroke, and I'm going to go to curve, and I'm going to say as line. And what this is going to do is no matter where I draw this, it's always going to draw a straight line. The other thing I want to do is I actually want to go up to picker, and I want to... No, we'll leave that alone. That's fine. I want to go to brush, depth, and let's raise that depth up a little bit. That should be fine. Now from here, actually, let's see real fast. That's better. Okay, what is happening? So I had a little bit of an error real quick. So if for some reason you get this where you are on another subtool, let's say you have a history stored, and then you come to this brush and then you start drawing out and you get some weird results where things aren't the way they should be. It's probably, and you have this red bar, this is actually an indicator that the curve brush is trying to use the stored history to locate and place the brush appropriately. So the best way to do is, instead of guessing what subtool that is, just come on up here, press and hold control and tap that red spot to add a new history spot and then remove it. And what that will do is it will remove the other one from the previous subtool because you can only hold one point of history at one time. And now the brush is working out the way I want it. So there it is. So if you ever get that, that's what it is. It's not an error. It's just ZBrush trying to identify where in history that is. And then it's going to go ahead and tell the curve brush to work off that point. So you just clear that point and now you have a brush that you want. So from here now we're going to get some slime. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of draw up a line here just so that I have a little bit of reference on how this is going to look. And we're going to be using an alpha, and I'm just going to go with something simple like alpha 35 and retouch that. And that's just going to make my brush a little bit more round. Okay, you can use other brushes or other alphas if you want. Like if you really want to get funny, go with alpha 7, and then you'll get all these little points here. Alpha 35, you get something kind of neat like this. So if you want to try different alphas, you definitely can, because it will take that shape. But for what we're doing with just slime is usually just drippy and round. There's no point going crazy. So we're just going to use a simple alpha brush for that. And now I'm going to adjust my size. There we go. Now I'm going to go to my stroke, and I'm going to go to my curve, my curve modifiers. I'm going to turn on size and open up this curve fall off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take these 2 points and create a straight line. So this is still going to create a pretty straight stroke. But now I'm going to add a middle point and drag this down. So when I touch this, now it's going to give me a nice tapered effect from the ends to the middle. So I can get something like that. And I can play with this however much I want. I can even add maybe a little bit of a flare up and down on each side. So it's a little different. So it gives me something like that. It's up to you. Hello, Pakistan. Hello, Shady. Welcome in, welcome in. Glad to see you here. Always a pleasure. Just going over some slimy curve brushes here. Now the point of this is so that we can actually go ahead and get something that looks kind of drippy, which is neat, because usually when slime is connected from one spot to another, you're going to have the connection point be the widest, and then in between where gravity is taking over, it's now going to go ahead and drip a little bit from there. So this is a really good, this is pretty good. Now with the multi-curve 2 brush, I can actually add multiple, which is why I went this route with this brush. But we're not done yet. We're also going to go ahead and from here, let's play with a few things. We could play with the focal shift of this. We can increase that a bit, and that will give us a little bit of a different result. We can also maybe, now snap distance, let's take that good. Let's leave that at 60. But maybe curve radius, let's bring that up. Yeah, that should be fine. We'll adjust that a little bit. As well as, yeah, maybe the distance is fine. Just a subtle difference. Thank you, Shady. Maverick says, hi, hello, Ian. Always a pleasure to watch you create art. Ah, Maverick, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining. I love it. Okay, now that we have this, okay, let's go ahead and test it. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this one. I'm going to hide this down, and then I'm going to come here and grab the hands. And now the other thing too is that we can turn off as line if you would like. So if I wanted to have a point from here to here, I now can get a little bit of a droop spot. Now that's a pretty big brush. It is up to you, but the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go ahead and create the line like this. I'm going to manually move that where I'm going to want that. This is just a little bit of me being OCD a bit. Now, if you don't want to Control Z to get this curve back, but you're like, this might be a little too skinny, what you can do then is you can actually just press and hold Control and inflate that a bit. Now what I want is actually the ability to split this off. So I'm going to go ahead, Subtool, Split Hidden, and then I'm going to take this and bring this back down into my slime and flesh bits. Actually, we should rename this. This is more appropriately slime and worms. What's good, Carbon? Hello, hello. Welcome in. It's good. Twitch has been weird lately. Twitch is not connecting appropriately, unfortunately, so I'm kind of bummed. It just says unable to connect. I don't know. I'm going to have to troubleshoot that later. But outside of that, it's good. Just getting to create some fun art. How are you doing, Carbon? Okay. Now, the slime is exactly the same as the gums color. I don't know if I like that. So I'm going to grab the tongue color by pressing and holding, or not, just pressing C. And then I'm actually going to adjust that down a little bit. And then I'm going to fill that. So it's a little bit more gross. And position it where I want. Just lay that there for now. Go ahead and get some of this connected, some of the teeth part. That's going to be fun. There. Gonna go a little bit bigger with that one. Put that back like such. Come in here. Yeah. That's pretty good. Different size, just a little bit. Right there on the tongue. Oh, good. My alter ego account on YouTube just got down with the gym. Nice, nice, man. Yeah, I was noticing the amount of 4s that were not there. That's pretty cool. Glad you got done with the gym, man. That's awesome. I started working out again recently because my body's been screaming at me that I'm not doing enough. So, I know the feeling. Okay. Chin these a little bit. So here at this point, I want to make sure we have some auto groups. But then I can actually work with getting some of this sorted out. Now, if they look too straight, how we're going to solve that is literally just add a little bit of a bend to it. This one up. Let's actually grab this guy right here. And I'm going to go ahead and hold control and inflate this one up because this one is a little too... It's a little too thin. I'm going to bring that back like that. There you go. Hey, Tatsun, how you doing? I'm good. I am really good. Just we are making magic happen. Trying to, at least. Okay, let's go back with that curved tubes brush. So this is actually a pretty good brush. I'm really liking it. So we're going to end up saving this brush out. That's good. It's perfect size. Gonna go ahead and smooth this bad boy up. And again here, let's go ahead and do this out. So yeah, let's get a little bit better. Smooth that. Okay, this might be a little too... It's weird. It might be a little too thin. It might be a little too thick. I don't know yet. Finesse it just a little bit. Now this bit here, this needs to kind of come up like this. Got it there. Let's push this in. It's also just a little too symmetrical. Hey, Leon, do I use a Cintiq or Intuos? Actually, I use both. Right now, I'm actually on a Intuos. I have a Cintiq at home. I like both for different reasons. The Intuos is kind of nice, especially like right now I have 2 monitors. I don't have a huge desk space for a Cintiq as well because I'm used to using 2 monitors, though. That's what I had at my disposal, so I set that up here. And then the Intuos actually allows more desk room for me to breathe, especially since I do a lot of typing, a lot of meetings in the office at work. So the Intuos is actually perfect because it doesn't get in the way of my keyboard and stuff like that. Where at home, I have the ability to actually swing my Cintiq off to the side and do it. But I only have one monitor, so I use that Cintiq. I went and bought a Cintiq over buying a second monitor. So for different reasons, but I like both. But, you know, honestly, like, the tablet doesn't make the artist makes the art. So, you know, if you're on the fence, I always recommend, like, if people are on the fence with what they should go with, if you have the ability to try it before you buy it, I recommend doing that. Getting back to the gym is great and gets me thinking about anatomy. Heck yeah. Honestly, yeah, that is like by far one of the coolest things about working out and being an artist. You know, we get the best of both worlds. We get to figure it all out. All right. Okay, I want to start adding some details to everything because everything still feels a little flat, but it's coming together. So this is the part where I kind of like preach forever. And I just basically say, like, especially if you're new to artistry as a whole, if you are trying to get better, spend more time in the block out and focus on getting the sculpt as good as you can get it. It's only going to be better in the long run. Don't rush to the details. While the details are the most fun, if the sculpt is just not working, then it's going to show. Like, no amount of details is going to save a sculpt that doesn't look good. So this is why you see my projects sometimes take a while, because I'm only doing these projects, by the way, most of the time on here anyway. So that's just something to keep aware. So a little friendly tip. How much is ZBrush? So ZBrush, so we actually have a few different options. So ZBrush does have a monthly subscription. And if you're a student, which is the best deal right now, the student pricing for all Maxon 1, which comes with ZBrush as well as Cinema 4D, Redshift, and some other stuff, is $9 every 6 months. Let me actually get some pricing to you so that I don't misquote anything. But the student license is probably the best. So ZBrush on its own is about $29, call it $30 a month for the full version for regular pricing. So here, let me actually just drop some links for you, Marcos. And if you're curious on why you would want to switch to ZBrush, honestly, ZBrush is the leading sculpting industry standard program throughout most industries you can think of, from jewelry to automotive to games to film to collectibles to toys and a lot of other stuff, including, you know, coins. Like the U.S. Mint department, they actually, Joe Mina, I don't know if you guys know who Joe Mina is, but he actually works for them and he sculpts coins using ZBrush. And a lot of coins are sculpted using ZBrush. So ZBrush is a heavy industry program, so it's one of those programs that is important to learn if you're trying to break into the industry. Did I share this link? I did share that link, I think. Let me just double check. Did I share that link? Yep, that's that pricing. And if you want to come to our, here is the pricing options, breaking up into monthly budget as well as yearly budget. So hopefully these work out for you. But there you go. Go ahead and check out those links. Again, if you have an EDU license, like you're in college right now, go straight to the teacher's student discount, because it's only, like I said, it's $20 a year, $10 every 6 months. So really, 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 really good deal. And it's full license of ZBrush. We're not talking like a watermarked version. It's a full version of ZBrush. Okay. So something I noticed right now, in the concept, his gums are the only thing showing, and I gave him a solid lip. So let's change this design up to match the concept a bit better. So what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to push this up and back, and we're going to make this look really gross really quickly. It's probably going to bring it all together a little bit faster. So let's actually get this up here. kind of new. I'm kind of new at this 3D world. I've heard great things about ZBrush, but to make sculpting details the original but to make sculpting details the original 3D mesh of a model is changed. I don't know what you mean by. You've heard great things about ZBrush. So ZBrush is primarily sculpting. So ZBrush will allow you to get high fidelity details quicker and faster than most programs out there on the market. So when you're looking to get into ZBrush, you're looking to push your sculpting to the next level. So if you're new to it and you're just like, hey, let me just pull the trigger and get the program that works for me, you know, definitely like see what's out there that's available for you. But you know, ZBrush does sculpting really, really well because that's what its primarily focus is: sculpting and painting. So depending on your goal set, if you're just trying to be a sculptor, then ZBrush is perfect for you. And you can even try how ZBrush works with ZBrush Core Mini. We do have a 14-day trial period at Maxon. However, if you want to try sculpting and get the feel of how ZBrush functions, just primarily by itself to see if you even like the program, download ZBrush Core Mini. It's completely free. It is just a sculpt. It literally takes it down to its bare bones and allows you to just sculpt freely, and you just get the sense of what ZBrush is. And actually, I'll send that link right now so you can give it a shot. You could do a lot with Mini, including export for 3D printing. So it does a lot. Hey, is Blender becoming the best software for everything, including sculpting? I think that's honestly opinion based. ZBrush is still an industry-leading standard program for sculpting. It does sculpting fairly much the best. So, you know, it is important for everyone to decide what path they want to take and what software they want to use. And what I can say is whatever software you're currently using, the skill set you're developing can be transferred easily to ZBrush. So if you're looking to up your sculpting game, ZBrush is definitely still the best program for that. It's looking sicker and sicker. Yay, what's up? UAB, how you doing? Good afternoon, hope you're doing well. Hope you have a blessed day. I hope you're having a blessed day as well. Yeah, in that case, I want to texturize and paint things, but at the same time create details without modeling. So ZBrush is a plus. Is ZBrush a plus for this scenario? Yes. Yeah, in short, yeah. ZBrush is not a box modeling software. It is very designed for you as an artist to get in here and just start sculpting and adding details. Let me give you a demonstration. This is how I tell everybody to start ZBrush. So I'm just going to show you how you need to start ZBrush. So, and it doesn't matter if it's ZBrush Core Mini. Let me save this real quick. And we're just going to go ahead and say switch. And then this is how you're going to start. You're going to grab a sphere, draw out a sphere, come on up to edit mode, and come on over to your tool palette and hit make polymesh 3D. From here, you're just going to come on up to this left-hand side, and these are all the brushes that ship with ZBrush. Actually, this is like half the brushes that ship with ZBrush. The other half is in the light box, which I can show you in a minute. But you could just grab a clay buildup brush by opening the menu, hitting C, and hitting B for clay buildup. You could hit X for symmetry, and look, you could just start sculpting. You could start getting in here and start working fast and quick. Let's actually find a better color for you, as well as a better material, because this is hard to see right there. So you could just come in here and start sculpting. Just come in, start making shapes. You can use a move brush by hitting B, M, and V and pulling these shapes out. And you can see very, very quickly how I can identify and get shapes going fast. Like, ZBrush is designed for the artist to just come in here and sketch in clay as quickly as possible. And the more knowledge you have as a sculptor, then the easier it's going to be to transition to digital. Because there's a lot of sculptors out there that went from traditional to digital really quickly. I'm sure it saves a lot of money too in the long run. But you can see here, I can already get a head shape. Well, maybe not the best head shape in the world since we started really rough, but you get the idea. You get a decent head shape. So you can get this stuff in really, really quick. So ZBrush is designed for you to work very, very quickly. Artists like myself, I block out quickly and then I spend time refining those details. So if that's what you're looking for, then absolutely, that's the program for you. Yep, agree, Leon. Doop, doop, doop. What's up, Matt? How's it going? Good to see you here. Love this model more and more. Thanks, man. Yep, when I tried Core Mini a couple of times, I was on board with the full version because sculpting feels smooth on ZBrush compared to other softwares for sure. Hello, hello. Yeah, and that's why I always gravitated towards ZBrush. It feels really smooth. It's really good in the hands. You know, look, every program has its ups and downs, pros and cons. You know, and no matter what, artistry is all about the ability to design freely and effectively with very little limitations. You don't want your creativity to be stifled because a program needs you to bounce around to 2,800 different items before you get something, right? And I'm not attacking a program, it's just being real. This is one of the things I always loved about ZBrush, is that I was able to take a ball of clay and just start manipulating it and use some simple brushes it ships with to get results that I would like. And I found that I was learning more about how to become a better sculptor, not necessarily how to become a better ZBrush artist. The tool itself allows me to create without too many issues. I don't find myself going down rabbit holes of tutorials just to figure something out. You know, yes, ZBrush can have a steep learning curve, but that's where guys like me are hired to make that learning experience easy and streamlined. So, you know, if you have questions about ZBrush, I'm here every Wednesday for the most part. Although we do have Adobe Max coming in a couple weeks, so there might be one stream I won't be able to do this month. But for the most part, I'm here every Wednesday, and I'm here to make your learning experience of ZBrush easier and better. So that's why we stream, and we have tons of artists that come on here every single day that stream, and you can talk and pick their brains. And the majority of the artists that stream on here are professional artists that make a living using ZBrush and other programs. So yeah, absolutely. I'm working and watching. Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for being patient and answering. Absolutely, Marcos, absolutely. What software for 3D environments do you recommend? ZRemesh. I recommend ZRemesh. You could definitely do environment stuff in ZRemesh, absolutely. Especially since engines like Unreal Engine 5 is making it easier, so you don't have to worry about retopoing or having super amazing clean mesh. Like, you can definitely create environments within ZBrush very fast. So, absolutely. ZBrush is definitely it. Again, there are other programs out there that also would do it, but honestly, like, I can create an environment pretty quickly in ZBrush. Especially since, for the most part, if you're doing environments, you're definitely going to be figuring out, like, you know, you're just going to be referencing a lot of actual environments and buildings and stuff like that. So that's my take. Hellos. How you doing, Speed? Welcome in, welcome in. What's up, Casey? Hello, hello. Currently sculpting a detailed character for 3D printing. What workflow do you recommend for this purpose? Sculpting in T-pose or retopo? So, great question. The fact that you're working with 3D printing, the beauty part is you don't actually need to worry so much about topology. In fact, you don't have to worry about topology at all if you're working for 3D printing. That doesn't mean it's not important to understand retopo or work with retopo, but the process for sculpting for toys, which is what I did for a long time, is or props in general, is that you just design however you want to design and make sure that it's watertight, that it's welded together. Case in point here, notice how all these straps kind of intersect with the hand, and I'm making sure they're all pushed down here. Because what's going to happen is eventually you're going to weld these together, and you don't want little holes like this floating through your mesh. If you can see that little hole right there, you actually want to make sure that that's intersecting. So when you merge these together and then weld them to make them watertight, it's gonna be the best that it can be. So it's important to kind of make sure everything's intersecting correctly and that it's watertight. Now the trick, of course, too, is making sure that it looks like that it is intersecting, but it looks like it's not intersecting. That's kind of tricky. Like right here, this might be a little interesting, so I may end up working this, but I do plan on prepping this for 3D printing on this channel when it's time, so you could definitely follow along there. But it's pretty simple. Merge things together, Dynamesh it is the method I use a lot, project our details back, and then from there, export it out. It's a pretty simple workflow, and because you don't have to worry about topology, you can just get as clean a meshes that you would like, and then go from there. Although there are tricks to use UVs and stuff in the toy world, it's just not widely utilized. As it's like it's not. What's the word for it? It's not required to use UVs in toys, but I myself and others have used UVs and retoppling for toys, because sometimes you just can't, if you're struggling with like a look and it's like, man, I'm not getting this thing looking good, then a lot of times it's easier just to go the retopo route, which I've done. It all depends, but the typical workflow, at least my typical workflow, was sculpted in ZBrush. Make sure everything was merged together that needed to be merged together. Made sure it was watertight by normally using Dynamesh with Project History or Project All, and then exporting and then creating my keys. And then after I create my keys, I then go ahead and make sure everything is still watertight, decimate it out, and then export. And in that process too, I also do scale and stuff like that. So hopefully that's helpful. Like right here, we need to make this come down a little bit more. Yes. Yes. There we go. It's looking nastier. I love it. Oops. Awesome. Awesome. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, hello from Greece. Welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome in, everyone. We're going until noon, so I'm going to be live for another half hour. So if you definitely have any ZBrush questions or just questions in general, like what we've been talking about, feel free. Jump on in. Okay, these teeth are too white. Let's make them even more nasty. So let's save this first. All right, thanks, Speed. Love to have you here, man. Have a great one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mask this section off. So now we're going to take the paintbrush, and I'm going to take a few different colors. I got this really nasty color right here, but that's too dark. So we're going to go kind of yellow. And I'm also going to go with color spray with alpha 7. Now I need to make sure I have some good resolution for this. So I might actually subdivide a couple more times just to get some good color. Okay. Now we're going to do with the darker color first. Heavy paint. I'm going to come through and actually get that nastier color here on the gums. With the focal shift a little softer than that. Both sides. Like such. This will be the really gross part. And now I'm going to switch to a more lighter kind of yellow. And now we're actually going to do RGB intensity down to like a 42. I'm going to start blending stuff in together. All about layering. Whether you're sculpting, painting, drawing, it's always about layering your model. It's very interesting. Thank you for the explanation. Absolutely, not a problem. I have a question. How do you make a trim alpha on a curve? I would trace the curve and have alphas fillets for armor. It's a great question. Give me 1 second. Boop, boop, boop. Paint this real quick. I'm actually going to make this adjustment here. I'm going to go with a single alpha here and get a little bit more variation. I'm going to do a light smooth too, with smooth color only. This will help blend some of the stuff in. And then we'll answer some questions. Boop, 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 boop. Ooh, got some good questions coming in too. All right, give me 1 second. Let's look at this for a second. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and save this real quick. All right. All right. Question: how do you make a trim alpha on a curve? Blah 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 blah. So you want an alpha to follow a curve. Let's see. I would trace the curve and have alphas fillets for armor. Okay. Make sure I understand your question right. Boop. Let me go ahead and just save, and then let's come here. Go back to this guy here for a second. I'm gonna go ahead and let's actually just put this here. Staple that out. We also have when you split models for 3D printing, when you export separate files, there's one. I actually export those out of separate files. Can you create that model from 0? Yeah, I mean, you could create any model from 0. Okay, let's go ahead and delete hidden. And now let's come here. All right, let's just have a happier color. Doop, 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 doop. So when you're talking, going back to the trim alpha curve. So you're talking, I just want to make sure I understand your question correctly, Mystery. You're talking about like you would draw a curve and then you would actually trace an alpha after the fact. So if I had a curve multi-curve 2 brush like this. Imagine repeating floral of trim following the edges of your armor. Oh, nice, nice, nice. Okay, okay. Okay, there's a few things you can do there. So you're talking about like you actually want like some filigree on the outside of your model. Let me actually pull up a tool real quick here. Let me make like a simple piece of armor real fast. So let's grab this guy right here. I'm gonna move this off screen for a little bit just so I have a little bit more room. Let me go to layers and let me go to delete. Delete, I don't need those. Happens a lot, delete all. No, I didn't mean delete all. I meant delete all others. Delete other. Bloop, say yep, great. One more time, layers, and delete, delete. Okay. So let's make a piece of armor real quick. And actually we can already do this by just duplicating this. Grab this guy right here, delete hidden. And then I'm gonna go ahead and actually store this up like that. Following the edges of your armor. Okay, so if you actually have, oh, interesting. Maybe come here real quick. That's 2 different poly groups. Delete hidden. Grab that one. Okay. So my stream time is 10 to noon. It's the best time for my schedule as a whole. I was streaming earlier, but then it wasn't working out so well, so I had to change the stream time for everything else. So that is the reason for it. It just didn't make any sense based on my work schedule. Okay. So first things first, if you wanted to have any type of alpha kind of trace around your model, like you're creating armor pieces, you might already do this, and maybe I'm not understanding your question right, so let's see if I get it right. If we come in here with a curve brush, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my curve tubes brush here. If I go up to stroke, and then I go down to curve functions, you can actually go ahead and frame your mesh based on this border, and then you can actually place your curve here. Now you can place an alpha based on this. So if I had a different alpha, let's say this guy right here, alpha 54, I can create that alpha with that design can follow that whole pattern. Is that what you're talking about? Now, unfortunately, I don't create a lot of armor, so I can't think of another way to do a lot of floral designs. However, if you wanted to, the way I would go about doing it is we do have this deco curve drag. This actually would be a fairly good way to go about doing that. Wait, no, maybe not the deco drag. Where is it? Hold on. It's a newer brush. Where are we? Was it that one? What was that brush? Hold on, give me 1 second. Boop, 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 boop. There's a new brush that's extrude profile. Now that's been there a while. So that would be one way to do it. Where is this brush? There's a brush I've just been playing with. Scribe. There it is. So the scribe would be really cool because then you can actually draw out curves here, and then that could scribe as well. Can you tell us about STL files? How can we turn our model to STL? So STL is just a file save type. So with STL files, basically, it's just exporting out. It's generally the files that is used to for 3D printing or sending over. So if you wanted to send this file, for example, like I wanted to send this guy over, you would just come up here to export, and you would pick STL, and then you could save this wherever you want, and then say save, and then that'll save the STL, and then they would say selected, visible, or all. It's up to you. And if you say selected, they'll say the only one that's selected. Visible, everything is visible in the viewport. All, everything, whether it's visible or not. It's up to you. And then you go ahead and say okay, and then it'll save that out. And Mazur looks awesome. Awesome, thank you. Do I have ZBrush courses? I don't personally have any ZBrush courses at the moment. Although I do have a How It's Made series, or Made in ZBrush, like a How It's Made. I've done a couple there. But since I work for Maxon, I'm actually developing more videos and tutorials and courses. This stream time was actually what was perfect for that, for people to come here as well and learn directly from me. But we have some older courses right now that we're currently in the middle of updating. So those will be out there soon. But if you would like to actually see like the How It's Made in ZBrush, which I run a few of those, How It's Made. We actually have an entire playlist for that. And then what that will do is actually you can follow along with these things. I've done a couple now. We're in line to do a few more, and then Paul Gabriel's also done some as well. So there's a few there. No, so okay, so yeah, the brush I was thinking was Scribe Standard. So for example, if I go ahead and come in here, let's get a better resolution. So I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to go ahead and subdivide this a few times. So this would be a brush that would be pretty cool if you're trying to get cuts. You can actually come on up to stroke, and you can actually go up to lazy mouse and drag that up a bit. But what's cool is you can actually come through here and you can cut little scribes into your armor pretty quickly. And you should be able to do an alpha with that. So you can have some details there. I don't like that alpha for some reason. Let's try this guy right here. Because it's a curve, you can add to it, or you can move it, because it's a drag dot, which is pretty cool. So I like the ability to continue my line and move it through here. So if you were really trying to follow some really neat designs, this actually might be the route I would go now. It's a more updated workflow. And then of course you can adjust and work on the fly. And if you don't like it, Control Z, back it up, or like I said, draw your scribe out and then move it from there. And you can even, because it's a curved brush, you can actually make adjustments to the curve and how it functions. So you can do bend start, you could do curve snap, you can repel, fall off. You can adjust this just like you would any other curve brush. Scale it up, rotate it down, and it can make some pretty cool lines. Hello, when would the updated new features of ZBrush come? We will announce when things are ready. Right now, we have nothing to announce, so I can't tell you. But ZBrush Summit's coming. ZBrush Summit is coming. The same. Hello, Maxon community members and attendees. Regards, best regards, best regards. So hopefully that helps you out with the scribing aspect. This is the route I would take. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot smoother. And you could do a lot more fun stuff. The other thing, too, actually, is I'm going to show you guys something, too. So with a standard brush, let's say, for the sake of argument, you have a very specific alpha in mind. And you want to be able to place these down independently. So I'm just going to see if I can look up real quick. Flower alpha. Oh, I'm glad you gave me alpha pattern. I just want alpha. I just want an alpha texture. Ooh, okay, cool. Here we go. This one's pretty cool. So for demonstration tutorial purposes, I'm going to save this to the desktop. Save that out. Beautiful. Bada bing, bada boom. So I'm going to go to my alpha and import, and here it is. Yep, that's the one. So now I have this alpha right here. If I take my standard brush and actually move this to drag rec, if I draw this out, it's based on my brush size, right? If I click and drag and hold, I can actually come through here and place this out. Now notice too, based on my focal shift length, will depend on how much of that alpha is detailed. So if I really want some flower designs, I can actually come through here and use an alpha and place these exactly where I want, and I can move them around so that fits the mesh accordingly. So I could have something like that as well. Now that's an alpha, so it's actually messing with the geometry, but hopefully that helps you as well. And that based on how, you know, how deep of a cut that is, like you can actually do an engrave. You can adjust the intensity if you don't want it so crazy big. But here, right, you can come through here and actually move this stuff around. So you're not stuck with just having to, like, oh, that's pretty cool. You're not stuck with having to just use a curve. You can actually use standard brush with the drag alpha. Really draw this up. Maybe I want these to come here and have that wrap around. Now that's a little funky dunky. So these are other ways you could do this as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Summit equals sculpt off time. This, right now the details for the ZBrush Summit, I'll actually post them right now. ZBrush 2022 Summit. turn my caps lock off for some reason. So right now, these are the details for the ZBrush 2022. I'm going to go ahead and pop this on. You're very welcome. So right now, it is going to be from November 13th through the 16th. All the details are here. We're going to be announcing more information soon, so don't worry. But you guys know that the Sculpt Off is coming. Live Sculpt Off, it's happening. We'll have more information for that soon. So keep a hold of this URL that I posted right now, because you're going to want to be a part of it. It's really, really awesome. ZBrush's Sculpt Off is by far one of the biggest competitions of the year. Artists from all over the world tune in. So we have announced that it will be a digital experience, but we really think everybody's going to really like the experience as hand. So definitely, stay tuned. More information that's on its way. Believe you me, I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to share all the goodness. So trust me. Trust me. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I'm excited. All right, where are we at right now for time? Okay, we still have some time. We still have some time. Let's finish painting the rest of this stuff. Okay, so now we have this. Let's go ahead and continue. We're still gonna fine-tune this the rest of the way, but for now, let's go ahead and wrong brush. About ready to get some floralness happening there. Okay, actually need to subdivide a few more times, because again, resolution's key even when painting. So I have subdivision level 5, subdivision level 5. Okay, perfect. Mask that section off. Come through here. Get all this goodness in here. Go ahead and solo that out. You are welcome. I'm super excited, guys. Boo, 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 boo. All right. Oh, also too, I got one more announcement. I got all these announcements for everybody. One more too, real quick. Let me just pull it up real fast. We are having an event on Maxon, which is going to be really, really cool, and it's going to be Demystify. It's called the Demystify series, where we actually take a program that is under Maxon, and we actually go through how to build certain aspects. So right now, we're going to be doing a 5-week every Monday, starting next Monday. So you're going to want to go ahead and check this out, because I'm going to be hosting, where I'm going to show how to make certain assets using ZBrush and bouncing back and forth too, with the ideas, like especially if you're from Cinema 4D and you want to start getting into ZBrush, this is going to be for you. So you're definitely going to want to check this out. So pop that in. That starts next Monday, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's just dedicated to getting people started in ZBrush a little quickly, especially, again, if you're coming from another application and you want to bring in ZBrush to the pipeline. Because the cool thing is that this is what makes ZBrush really unique, is that there are a lot of artists that don't know how to sculpt, or have like some, pretty beginner level experience with creating assets. And so I'm going to be showing how you can use ZBrush to create those assets pretty quickly. So if you're interested in that, that's starting next Monday. So you're gonna want to pop in on that. All right. Start painting some of these bones. Let's paint this. Let's paint this the same yellow. Is bone marrow yellow? Is that a question I guess I have to ask? Is that a question I have to go over? The detail in there. Now that's still Dynameshed. There we go. Right. Well, if anybody came from Twitch Twitch for some reason was not working in our favor today, so unfortunately, I'm really bummed about that, but hopefully we'll get Twitch sorted for the next stream. Alright, so this is too clean of some bones, so we need a little bit of nasty blood. Get in there. Sometimes just coloring it is all you need. Okay. Now here we're gonna start putting in some wrinkles. Actually, looking at the concept one more time, we do want to start putting in some wrinkles in the wraps. But I want to fix his mouth the rest of the way. So check this out. Move infinite. I'm gonna just mask off this section here. Mask off anything we don't want touched. Up in here. Like such. All right. Come in here, grab this guy. Mask it off. There we go. I'm just moving too fast for my own good. There we go. Bring that up. Yeah, it looks pretty gross. Keep the lower lip though. Nice little executive decision for that. But we'll keep that. Make his teeth just a little bit pushed back. So actually mask this one off. Touch right here. Just gonna pull these straight in there. Might elongate them a little bit. Let's see. Can you tell me why you would use Dynamesh over Z-remesh model? When I use Dynamesh, I end up with weird artifacts and can't get good retopo out of it without Z-remesh again. Great question. So it's actually really, the simplest way to approach it is Dynamesh is for sketching, Z-remesh is for refining. So you never want to get a full model, in my opinion, you never want to get a full model completed only in Dynamesh. That's not to say that you can't. There are plenty of artists that have, do, and that works for their workflow. And in fact, we had a guest artist, MLW Creative on a couple weeks ago, and he primarily Dynameshes because he does 2D illustrations from his 3D models. So it is possible to do it, absolutely. However, you spend, in my opinion, more time trying to get everything looking good with Dynamesh. For example, this hand right now, we're getting ready to send to Z-remesher. The way I work is I take my model and I use Dynamesh to its fullest capacity and merging things together, welding it, making sure it looks really good. The benefit of Dynamesh is that when you're sketching these things out, right, I can actually come through here and get things welded together that if this was Z-remeshed, this collision right here, I couldn't repair this, right? But the beauty part is that with Dynamesh, you can repair. So there's pros and cons to each one. For me, the Dynamesh phase is that I'm still working the model and I'm still trying to get the overall look and feel that I want. And I want to end up refining it and shaping it some more. because I'm still building it. Not refining. I want to shape it and fix it and get it right. When I'm ready for details or when I'm ready for refinement, that's when I move into Z-remesher, which is actually, funny enough, something we're just going to cover here in a second. But Z-remesher is also good for getting good topology. And so when you're trying to get to a certain spot where you end up with too many warbles and things just don't look 100% amazing with your Dynamesh, that's where Z-remesher comes in and allows you to fix stuff pretty quickly. So for example, let me do a real world experience for you. Right now, I have these little insets, these little seams. Let's get rid of these seams. So I'm Dynameshing it to keep this nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and push this line back. Smooth this down. And then we're going to do a Z-remesh. So let's actually come through here. And let's go ahead and do that part there. Okay. But now we're moving into a stage where I do want to end up refining. So now we're going to be moving into Z-remesher. So here, my topology is pretty good. Got a little bit of weirdness happening, but that's okay. Let's actually polish this spot right here down. Now, if you're getting weird artifacts before I do the Z-remesh with Dynamesh, a lot of times what that means is that you have intersecting mesh that won't weld to each other because it's too far, or it's inverted and it's trying to flip and it's creating weird internal holes. The way to fix that is pretty simple, actually. You can either do what I like to do, which is just go down to Geometry, Mesh Integrity, check Mesh Integrity, and it'll give you this message and says Mesh Integrity Test Complete. If there are errors, it will identify what those errors are and actually tell you, oh, you had like 26 inverted faces. And then from there, you can fix your mesh, and then it'll say it's fixed. This is how you know your mesh is actually really nice and watertight. The other thing that you could do is you could actually just lower the resolution. Your resolution might be so high that it's not able to bridge the gap. So if you've noticed that, like when you, let's do a history save state, if I were to re-Dynamesh this at like 200, right? So let's clean this up and then okay, maybe let's go lower. That wasn't a good example. Let's go 40. Come on. There we go. So you can see that like the lower the number, you get more quads and more triangles happening here. And then it's going to weld all of those little holes. So when you get something like this, a lot of times it'll just take over this mask because it's able to project out. It's able to stretch. But when you get up into bigger numbers, the quads get small. That was 40 again. Come on, go back up. Let's go up here. The quads get smaller and things get tighter, which means now it's not going to be able to cover or close as many holes as before. And the higher the number, of course, the more resolution you're able to pack in because the more quads and intersecting points that you actually have. And if you look, if I were to go back, say right here, at this low one, notice that my active points is only 2,000, whereas when I went higher, let's say 900, and I went ahead and remeshed that, now notice that my active points is at 1.3 million. So and the tighter that is, the more it's not going to be able to close those holes. And sometimes you have artifacts or you have points that are inverted that when you go at a high resolution, it just can't connect, and then it's just yelling at you. So that's typically when you get that. So that's where mesh integrity comes in for the win and allows you to fix that up. Now, at this point, we're at this point now where I want to actually go ahead and do a Z-remesh. So you want to take your Dynamesh model as far as you can to the point where you're happy with it and that you're not going to change the shapes much anymore. Like the shapes are refined and perfect the way it is. This is where you can now come in and do a Z-remesh. And that's going to help keep the shape with good geometry, so then later you can apply more details and have good edge flow to capture those details. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just do the way I like to do it is I like to come through here and create polygroups for sections that make sense. So I'll create a new polygroup here, and then I'll mask that part off. And I'm actually going to come through and make different polygroups so that I have some pretty good edge flow when we do our Z-remesh. So that was a long-winded rant. Hopefully I didn't lose you in that explanation, but that's the idea of it. Hey, hope you're doing well and never fail to impress with your work. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. And yeah, doing really, really well. Thank you for asking. Up through here. And again, we're going to tap this and we're going to make that its own polygroup. And then we're going to come through here and make this its own polygroup. I have to explore that mesh integrity option. Thank you for the insight. Absolutely, you're so welcome. Now, here's something too I like to point out. We're just going to go ahead and turn off the line so we can look at the polygroup colors. So polygroup colors, sometimes it may look like the color is very close to being the same as, well, another color. Well, even though these two look very similar, they are different hues, different shades. However, when I have polygroups that are too close to a color it's connected to, I like to change that. So I will isolate it by hitting Control and Shift and tapping, and then I will give it a different polygroup. So now these two are very contrasty colors. So when it goes to ZRemesh with keep groups, it's going to go ahead and identify those as being clearly different from each other, and that should give better results. Same with this. Now see, these two colors are the more similar, so I'm definitely going to pick something like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and select this one and do something like that. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead up at the top here and Control tap my history save space. This is going to allow me to project back. And now I'm going to go ahead from here, turn my lines back on. Now, what I like to recommend when you're doing Z-remesher stuff is pay attention to where your mesh is starting. That 1.3 million, that's how much information I need to capture the amount of detail I currently have. This is important because being able to, you don't want to go so low and try to reproject back that it just can't capture that detail. But you want to find a pretty good low starting spot so that you can actually subdivide up to that level and work between these different points. So I like to take a look at this and know that I have 1.3 million polys, which allows me to have this much detail. Now, this detail is still kind of soft and sloppy, but that's okay because we're going to be able to correct it and go up and push it further once we get our Z-remesher happening. But now with this going on right there, trying to turn the line back on. With our history save here, with Z-remesher, you want to keep it as simple as possible. You don't want to overload it by saying keep groups, tagged edges, keep creases. This is too much. Like, this is going to cause a lot of strife. The most I recommend is having 1 or 2 of these turned on because it's going to tell Z-remesher exactly what you want to do. By turning on everything, like keeping creases is already kind of doing yourself a favor with keeping groups. It's already going to identify that stuff. So when you're working with Z-remesher, you want to kind of, pick and choose the option that makes the most sense. And feel free to try different options because you always do get different results. But with this being said, what I want to do is I want to clean this up a little bit. I want to give Z-remesher a good opportunity to try to make this a solid line. So the way to go about doing that is just, easiest way is deformation, polish by groups, but I'm going to take this little on-off bubble, and I'm going to turn that off, which is just going to allow for a much stronger algorithm. I'm going to go up like 14, there we go, and that really smooths this area here. I'm not worried about the rest of it being super smooth because I'm not projecting back to that detail. I just really want these edges to be as smooth as possible, and that's the best way to do it quickly. Now from here, if we want, we can come up and go to Geometry, Crease, and Crease Polygroups, and that will also crease those, and then we can just worry about the crease function. So from here, let's go to Z-remesher. Now, I want a good starting spot, so I usually I start at about 10 to 20% of my overall total that I'm starting from. So I'm starting from 1.3 million polys. So, you know, let's actually do ourselves a favor. Adaptive size, that's not what I meant to change. Target poly groups, I'm actually going to start at 20,000 with keep groups turned on. Now I have my history, so I'm going to say, okay, Z-remesh. Let's see what happens. Yeah, right? Isn't that awesome? Hello, hello. Thank you very much for the clear explanations. You are so welcome. What's up, Saji? Hello. All right, this might take a second, but... Okay, it's 12. So I'm actually going to be ending my stream here shortly after this. But want to showcase this last part. And then we're going to go. All right. So see here, we actually have some pretty good results. And notice I didn't use the keep groups function, and yet I still have different poly groups for each of my fingers. This really just let Z-remesher live within its strengths and said, hey, those creases, we're going to keep that. This actually did a pretty good job. I don't want to go much lower than 20,000 actually, because this is capturing a good amount of information already, and I'm pretty happy with that. So now I can, and my topology looks pretty good. I don't see anything that's super jumping out at my face and telling me it looks terrible. I mean, it's not animation ready, but I'm also not trying to animate it. I'm just trying to print it. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and subdivide a few times. So I want at least the same amount of polys I started with. So that was 1.3 million. So I'm going to subdivide by hitting Control D once, twice, 3 times a charm, and that already puts me at 1.3 million polys. So based on just doing that little bit of math and figuring out what I wanted to do, allows me to subdivide. Now I'm going to go ahead and project history. Now what I will do is I will go ahead and uncrease all. I don't need those creases anymore. And now I'm going to go ahead and go to Subtool, Project History, and I leave the default options on. Does a pretty good job the way it is. And yes, I always want to project my color back. I spent time, and now I have this. Now it has my Dynamesh imperfections, but this is what's cool about Z-remesher, is that now with my Dynamesh imperfections, I can actually drop down to a lower subdivision level. I could come in here and start doing a relax smooth. That's really, really high. So I could just press and hold shift, start smoothing and let go of shift, and this will do a relax smooth. And this will kind of just like allow some of those imperfections to breathe a little bit. And then I could step back up by hitting D on the keyboard. Maybe step down a little bit, come in here, do a relax smooth. The relax smooth is the key to not destroying your mesh. Okay. And at this stage, I am no longer manipulating the majority of the mesh. At this stage, I'm now refining the mesh. So this is where, again, Dynamesh really lives strong, is it allows you to control and sketch out what you're going for. Z-remesher is you liked what you got, Z-remesh it, make it look pretty, make it look good, and then from there, you can now refine it and clean it up the rest of the way. And this is how you can start getting smoother, cleaner sculpts. Now, if you want to, just a slight little fun trick, you could go back in time in history and pick another point if you liked another point of information, as long as you didn't move the mesh too much, and then project it back to the future. But I recommend keeping it pretty reasonable. If you change the mesh too much, it might you might get a little imperfection, but for the most part, it's a great way as well. Another thing you could do. Okay, that being said, we're going to call it for the day. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Let's see here real quick. Just want to make sure I don't miss any questions. Could you please explain the brief difference between project all and using duplicate and using project history? Yes, project history projects the histories that you stored within the subtool itself. Project all will project from one subtool to multiple subtools. So if I wanted to project all from if I wanted to do the project all method, what I would need to do is actually duplicate my mesh with a new subdivided, Z-remesh all that. Then I would need to parent the main hands I need to parent the main hand to the new mesh, and then parent everything below so that these two are connected. Or what I need to do is just solo out everything by turning everything off by holding shift in the eye and turning on only the two things I want. And then project all will only project anything that's visible to the subtools underneath. So projecting what you're projecting from is on top, what you're projecting to is on bottom. And then that's the difference. So project all is just projecting to all subtools, and then or whatever's parent. And project history allows you to work within the subtool alone, allowing you to project on that own history. Project history also is cross subtool dependent or compatible. So if you had another subtool that had some specific detail you wanted to project or some color you wanted to project, you could project history from another subtool, but if the mesh is extremely different, then you might get some funky results. But in a sense, you could also do it that way. And then you would go ahead and delete the ones that you didn't need anymore. But you can see here, I got exactly what I'm going for. Okay. Already been here like 10 minutes already, you're learning a lot. Thanks for the collection. Absolutely. All right, sweet. You've been doing it the old way, duplicate, subdivide, project all subtool. Yeah, that's the way I used to do it a long time too. When the project history came out, it really changed my workflow. And now that, as you saw here, I didn't even have to do the stepping where I'd like project, subdivide, project, subdivide, project, subdivide. I can subdivide up to the level I want and project. And again, as long as you're projecting the detail from the older mesh to the newer mesh, it's going to capture the same. And if you followed what I was doing with kind of taking the 10 or 20% starting point, Z-remeshing it down to that low of a level, and subdividing back up, and having roughly the same amount of topology from your Dynamesh to your Z-remesh, you're going to get much better results quickly because you're not fighting the mesh. All right. That being said, we're going to end it for today. Again, I go live every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time. I am a ZBrush trainer over at Maxon, so I love taking your questions. That's what I'm here for. For all the Twitch streamers that might have been watching this after the fact, I don't know why Twitch wasn't connecting. I feel really bad, so I'm sorry that wasn't available on the Twitch side. But if you were to pop in and at least see some things, thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. Everybody who's new here, awesome. Thank you again. I appreciate you all. And I will catch you next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel, all that good news. That being said, here, let's get this up here, right here. Looking pretty. Gonna stamp that. Stamp that. Yes. Next week, we will go over refining the wrinkles and stuff on the wraps. So stay tuned for that as well. All right. I'll catch you all later. Bye for now. Happy ZBrushing.